Hello and welcome to the Blue Eagle workshop, seeing your bigger picture view as a planetary server on this magical day of 22/02/2022, which of course adds up to the number 12. So the previous twos that we've had this month have added up to the number 10. And so just to give you the Mayan info of where we are today and how this links in. So you can see we're here, which is Blue Eagle. Blue Eagle is the 15th Mayan sign. Planet is Jupiter. It's a mastery process because after we get to the 13th sign, that's the human being structure. And then we go into the mastery levels, what I call the 7 solar seals of mastery steps. And the first one is White Wizard. That's number 14. More about her in a moment. So, Blue Eagle. Today, as I've said, Blue Rhythmic Eagle, and that's the 6th of White Dog. White Dog Wavespell we're in, day 6 we're on. So we're coming into balance. We've gone through the initiation, we've had new learning around our emotional story coming in. We've had the opportunity to do the alchemy as a human being. We've had a portal day of Akashic record, which is Red Self-Existing Skywalker, how to become free of codependency and these Gregorian time scales and patterns. Mastery of empowerment, and now we're seeing our bigger picture view as a planetary server. And how this ties in with the number 12 is 20 days before. So every 20 days, the same sign comes up in a different number. And there you can see that was back in Yellow Seed, an Akashic record again. So if you have this Mayan sign, then it is a biggie for you around being an Akashic day, or what is called in the Mayan terminology a gap day. So Google that for more information, lots of different spins on that. And each person has their own perspective on it. My perspective on it is it's a day of Akashic record. So things will happen on that day throughout history that are very significant to human beings who want to become conscious creators, as in understanding their own patterns. And this is my focus as being a planetary server, is first of all in knowing my patterns, healing my patterns, using tools to do that, such as this tool, and astrology, cosmology, and EFT, emotional freedom technique, is the significant transformation tool. Okay, so I'm going to be showing more about that too. So that's where we are. Tomorrow we have got another Akashic day, which is Yellow Resonant Warrior. And that is also a clear sign day. So if you're new to this, don't worry. There's lots of complex jargon with this tool, as there are with most tools that we've got to learn. It's such a headache for me a lot of the time of doing different courses and having to learn their tools, and also technology as well, to try and keep up to date with everything that's going on in order to share the work that I do. And how do we manage to do it all as a human being? Well, I think the short answer to that is we can't, so things have to change because things are going so fast now. And I know each generation has their own pattern and code, which is intrinsic as well. So, but if you don't keep up with technology, then it can be difficult to share your tools. So basically, where we are is we're in White Dog, and White Dog is the 10th mind sign, which I've done a video on this on my channel on YouTube. So just go and check that out if you haven't already. My videos are long, mostly because they're complex and they have a lot of information on them. Now and again, I do snapshots, and so usually these are on tapping with shifting as the key intention. So white dog is the very centre of the Zolkin, and this is about shifting our ancestral patterns. So today I'm going to focus on that because that's what we're in alignment with, and that's what these tools are all about, getting into alignment with natural time, healthy calendars that help you shift instead of staying stuck. The Gregorian calendar is largely designed around the number 12. Many things are designed around the number 12, astrology, the zodiac, the 12 steps, for example. And essential to this process is to go beyond the number 12. So the number 12 in the Mayan calendar is yellow human. Yellow human being is the philosopher's stone. I've got my words out today. And so our body does not lie. Our body shows us where our energy is flowing and where it's stuck. And often we can get stuck in a thought process which is largely ruled by our ego. So the tools that I use and share and how I work is around understanding the human being biology. That is essential, although you don't need to know all of this stuff straight away. I cleared a migraine headache in a couple of minutes using EFT, and I didn't even know how to use it at that point. So this stuff works, and you don't need to be an expert in it in order to use it. So that's the first thing that I want to say is don't limit yourself because you feel you don't know the Mayan calendar, you don't know astrology, you don't know how to do EFT. Once upon a time, I didn't either, and that didn't stop me. And I still don't know everything there is to know about any of these subjects. This is lifelong learning. So if you decide that you want to know more about this, then please do get in touch with me. I offer a free consultation, and I have 52-day processes starting all the time. So this is how I work now with universal frameworks, and people who are ready to come into those frameworks when they're ready to, because this is very much how it works, I believe, through my experiential learning of using them. So I've been using EFT since 2007. Changed my life, changed so many people's lives who I've worked with. I work as an energy coach in terms of emotional healing, freeing up the energy that has got stuck in our old ancestral stories and patterns, and is essential for our evolution. So it's essential for us as a planetary server. So this is what I offer you today, is get a piece of paper and a pen, or however else you record. You may do that online, you may do that using PDFs, whatever you use, recordings. Get something that you can use to work along with this workshop, because again, my focus has always been practical and asking deep questions around what can we notice about our patterns, our behaviours, and how to create transformation so that we can be free to live the magical adventure that we've come here to do and share our gifts Just to say that I only work with women, and the reason that I do that is because I am one, and this is a level of my depth of work now. Is I choose to work with women who are looking to create change and transformation, and we can create a dynamic, healing relationship together that is not codependent, and that we can recognize we've got the same patterns, so we can create an amazing synergy around that. So that's why I work with women who are seeking empowerment through healing. That is the most important thing in my understanding. Okay, so let's go to the practicals. So just to give you a little bit of background about me and where I'm coming from, my bigger picture overview as a holistic therapist. I've trained in lots of different modalities, mind, body and spirit, and my life has really changed because of that. And I know that's why I came here. First of all, to change myself, because this is primary as a planetary server. We come to change these ancestral patterns. If we don't do that, then we carry on living them. And if you're watching this video, I guess you already recognize that and you're already doing some level of work. So in terms of practicals, I started off learning psychology in a traditional way. I'm currently doing a forensic psychology degree, so I'm really focused on lots of different areas of study, but primarily on what the pathology is. That's what I'm always interested in. And in other speak, that's shadow work. Okay, so it's mindsets, thoughts, beliefs that we have inherited from our ancestors, from our caregivers, from our society, that keep us stuck in an old pattern that is codependent, it's unhealthy, it's disempowering, and it's been around for thousands of years. So in our ancestors' lives and in our past lives, on a gene level, on a cellular level, we have these codes. Over many years, I have focused on different methodologies, such as cognitive behavior therapy, such as energy healing, Reiki, quantum touch, aromatherapy, body work, breath work. I've done lots of different modes of healing. And what changed my perspective was EFT, because it was so dynamic. It was so amazing, the shifts that I got for myself personally, and also with clients that I was working with. I did 100 case studies, and some of the people that I'd worked with had been very ill for a very long time. And the EFT tapping was the difference that made the difference. It gave them a tool, an empowerment tool. So although they may have worked with a therapist, they may have been in counselling for a long time, the EFT was a tool they could use so that when they were having a crisis, like for example, one lady I worked with hadn't been out hardly at all for 10 years from her house because of something that had happened. And literally with a couple of sessions of EFT, she got a massive shift. But also because she had EFT to use for herself, when she started to feel anxious when she was outside, she could use EFT and she could get herself to a place of calm. So please do check it out. emofree.com is Gary Craig's website, and there's loads of free stuff on there that you can access and use for yourself. And this is, again, is what I'm really passionate about, because there's so many free resources with EFT. So it will help you transform your life. And again, if you start to really become an expert on yourself, an expert on how human beings work, or the theories around how human beings work, and of course this changes over time, but if you understand how your psychology works just on a very basic level, and then you apply it with these other tools like the mind calendar, they all click in together. This is no accident. It's been an amazing journey for me. It also fits in with shamanic philosophy and all the other spiritual frameworks of truth. You can see the same patterns there. So again, going back to Blue Eagle. Blue Eagle is our ability to fly high above our path and see what's down below. We can see where we've come from. Maybe we've traveled over wide expanses of land. We've had sunny times, we've had lovely times. Sometimes we've gone into these deep ravines where it can be very dark and we can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. But again, once you use the magic of the eagle and just in an imaginative way, or do a journey with shamanic drumming, for example, you can rise up and you can go to a higher level and you can look down on your path. So tomorrow will be a key day for that, in seeing the heart warrior that we are, the heart path, so different to what we've been conditioned to believe in our particular culture, especially in the West, around who we are and what defines us and what our role is. We are so much more than that. We are so different to that in truth. And now is the time to really start coming into our power. So one of the studies that I'm doing at the moment and that I've done previously in psychology is around behavior. And it's understanding really that if we don't heal from past traumatic events, then our amygdala stores these events and gives rise to behaviors. So let me give you an example around that. Let's say that we've got a coping mechanism using cigarettes, for example. I smoked for years ago. It was part of a ritual, being a tribal thing as a young person. A lot of members of my family did it. There was a mindset around it being something that was healthy, even at one time, if you do the research. And of course, it was promoted in this way. The people who sold the product had full awareness of the damage that it could do and its addictive tendencies. But the power of it and why it's so addictive, part of that is the consequences of doing smoking. So it can be very powerful to the emotional mind. Now, the emotional mind is the driver of the human being. It's what keeps us alive. And this is so important for people to understand. And it's what I work with in training people to know how to do EFT. The emotional mind is not logical, okay? It's the fight, flight, or freeze part of us. And so all it wants to do is to help us survive. It records all our ancestors' experiences that have created trauma or death for them, which is great, which means when we go out of the door, we're not starting from scratch every day. We've got an awareness around what can be dangerous for us. And this can, of course, create phobias as well. So going back to the lady who didn't want to go out of the house because she didn't feel safe to do so, there is a logic there to it intrinsically, but it's not always in the way that we think. So we might have a phobia about a spider, for example, but actually in England, there's probably very little chance of getting bitten by a poisonous spider compared to somewhere in the outback in Australia. So Once you start to recognize patterns, though, you realize that that's how your amygdala works. It doesn't do logic in that way. It's like a burglar alarm that is saying, here is pattern match. This is dangerous for you. And once you start to recognize these patterns in your life, you will see that often a spider phobia can be related to aggressive people in childhood. It has the same patterns. So it can be unpredictable, it can move very quickly, it can turn up in places where you don't expect. And again, I'm just trying to give a quick snapshot of this. But once you start to realize the implications of this and everything starts to click in, you can then start to work very powerfully in understanding what feels disempowering for you. So instead of focusing on cigarette smoking per se, it's what are the consequences of the behavior? What does it give you? What are the benefits of it? So it could be relaxation, it could be connection to your partner, it could be time out from a stressful situation. And this shift of focus gives you a bigger picture view. So you can understand what is motivating your behavior. And then you can start to work on a deeper level to bring in different things. Bringing in EFT to soothe our anxiety, stress is one of the biggest game changers you will ever do, because then you can start to understand codependent behaviors that we all have, because it's how our culture is set up, and how to let go of them to come into balance. So remember, on day 6, Blue Rhythmic Eagle, day 6s are all about coming into health, balance, and in the traditional zodiac, Virgo energy, which of course we're in that 260-day cycle of Virgo, understanding our mindsets, our beliefs, and how we start to rewire them so we feel fulfilled, we birth the new earth, and we come into a sacred feminine alignment, which is where we're at. Evolutionary wise, astrology wise, we're coming back into balance with the sacred feminine and the goddess energy. So it's a lovely time to really start to focus on this work, because as we change, so imagine we are one pixel in the bigger picture on the planet, then as we change our holograph, our cells, our behaviors, our mindset through healing, then the whole world will change. So it's just doing a reverse of what we've been programmed to do, which is focus on the outside instead of focusing on the inside. White 13-day cycles and white 13-year cycles are all about refinement and discovering truth, based on the previous 13-day, 13-year cycles of red, which are awakening. So we are currently in a 13-year cycle of empowerment since 2019, which is White Wizard. And so every day in a white 13-day cycle, we're going to be revisiting our empowerment issues in a specific way. And so in a specific way, in this particular one is White Dog. So this is all about our empowerment issues in our ancestral family, conditional love, and how we've learned that. So one of the most important focuses is to understand that in our childhood, we come in from spirit and we are embodied in a pattern that we are going to be working with our whole life in this incarnation. So again, once we become really focused on this, things start to move dramatically and everything's in alignment for that to happen now. In the current cycle, since 2012, we've gone into a new pattern in the Mayan calendar and in astrology. So Neptune went into Pisces at that time. So this is a deeper understanding of our spiritual path. Pisces in itself, which we're now in the sun time, we are focusing on the 12th house, which is where our hidden power is. So how we come into empowerment is, in my belief, healing our disempowerment, understanding why that happened, and releasing it and learning new behaviours. Pisces is very much about addictions as well, often trying to get out of our body, trying to get high because we can't cope with what's going on in our day-to-day, and also being unable to feel all our feelings because they're too overwhelming. So intrinsic to this is creating healthy boundaries and letting go of anything that is poisoning us, anything that's an intoxicant. Is toxic. You know, that's the key part of that word, where we are trying to maybe give ourselves confidence in some way, maybe engage in behaviours that we normally wouldn't do. So if you think about that on a personal level, and I'm going to ask you a question number 1. Okay, if you want to do deeper inquiry. So in your ancestors' lives and your past lives, remember we've lived in this huge imbalance. We've had bloodlines who are very powerful. If you look back over our history, and we are revisiting the time of independence in the United States, where terrible things were happening around slavery and people profiting from human beings and believing that that was okay, you know, some of the people. And that mindset has not gone away. We can see how that's still repeating in different ways, and everything that happened around that largely has not been healed by individuals. So based on the premise and the framework that we keep repeating these patterns until we heal, we can see how that's shaping our world today. So if you think about your family, maybe you know about your family tree, maybe you know how your family was involved, maybe in the slave trade, in one way or another. If you think about historically what's happened, your family stories, your big stories around how your family has interacted in the world, and maybe they've had to work in the service industry, maybe they've worked in a way that was demeaning or didn't feel good for them. And you can see those patterns still appearing for you today. So one way that you can really focus on this pattern is just to write down, what are you experiencing today? What have the consequences of your ancestors' lives, stories created for you? So it could be that you are a people pleaser, for example, that you often find yourself overcommitting, not being able to say no to people. These are the places where we've got the challenges. These are the places of transformation. So remember, every blue Mayan sign is a day of transformation. If you are a blue Mayan sign, your energy is all about transformation. So all of these consequences of what we have inherited, these are our challenges. So what I offer to you is start to do your detective work, or if you're already doing it, go deeper now, because over the past 5 days, you will have had some insights, you will have had some experiences that really can illuminate some of these areas for you. So the second question, can you recognize common themes in your life story? Your mum's story, for example, your grandmother's story. And if you watch my videos, you'll know that my ancestral line is focused on my grandmother, who is a red crystal skywalker. Your children's story, in particular, if you have daughters as well, you will see this. And remember, on a cellular level, we're all connected. So the more that we do the work, it affects how the rest of our line who are alive function, because we're all connected on a cellular level. And also it will go back and it will shift on a quantum level right the way back to the beginning of time, because we are the ones who are changing and evolving our family line. This is so powerful and so amazing. So write these key themes down. And if you can speak to your ancestors, either physically, so you can have a chat with any relatives that are still around, great. Start doing your family tree. That will reveal some amazing stuff as well. And I know a lot of my clients have been doing that, and it is, wow, you know, it gives so much understanding in itself and healing to understand why we are living these lives and these themes. Okay, next question. What has been illuminated for you as to your codependent patterns in relationship? So, for example, are you involved in the caring profession? Most of the women that I work with have some alignment to this. The healing profession in some way. Does your partner have difficulty with emotions, being honest, being authentic, anger? Does this remind you of your dad, your grandfather, some other key man in your childhood? And if you are very aware of this, so we magnetically attract these patterns, these people in, until we heal this and start to change our behaviours, we have different consequences. Then again, we can start to red flag things. So we can start to look at narcissistic patterns, for example. We can look at how generations through their trauma, so for example, the wars that have come before, have developed coping mechanisms with that. So people may be on the spectrum, for example, they may have Asperger's, they may have other ways of being human beings that we hadn't previously thought about. And I know on a personal level, once I start to recognize narcissistic behavior at a time when there was very little out there about it, I saw it everywhere. And again, this is what the universe tends to bring for us. So again, it's working through stages of this and keeping yourself grounded as you're doing this process as well, keeping yourself in an ability to cope with this new information and this new way of understanding the world that we're in. And that's always my intention, is to bring understanding and healing and coming from that perspective. And finally, have you or are you struggling with birthing your fulfillment ways of being. So maybe you're struggling getting your way of working out there. You've got a passion, you've got a dream, and you want to birth something new through you. Birth the new earth is what this 52-day process is all about, feeling fulfilled. And often we find, people often call this sabotage, we sabotage, but actually we're just running our pattern. That's what we're doing. We're running our pattern, and something's there getting in the way, blocking. Now, for women in particular, this can be your personal birth process. I took 3 days to be born, and this happened with my firstborn as well. And so you can start to detect a literal body pattern there. And of course, this is how we incarnate. So it's intrinsic. So again, healing our own personal birthing processes is very important. Healing our own way of co-creating. So again, on a sexual level, this can be very intrinsic to this process as well. So again, if you start to work with those right now, and again, taking full responsibility for your own personal healing with this, remember, when you start to open up these stories, they can be very powerful. So always make sure you've got access to support as well if you need it. And remember that the life that we've been conditioned to is a half life and a half truth, a really reduced version of who we really are and why we came here at this tipping point time. So remember that these narcissistic patterns, these powerful bloodlines, again, if we just look at the history, there is a group of people who forge new ways of being in the world, go to different places in the world, take over, colonize. You can see those patterns are still happening today. And of course they will, until human beings evolve and heal and stop doing these narcissistic, survival, very strong material patterns. So these historically have been a way of using sacred feminine resources. So first of all, Mother Earth, plundering the earth, not being aware of other beings on the planet, and also using women and disempowering women. So again, if you look over thousands of years, you look over these stories of how women learned to try and protect themselves from being persecuted. If you look specifically at the lineage of that, and remember, in this lifetime, we're not here to do that anymore. We're not here to sacrifice ourselves. We're here to work wisely and unlock all of these amazing powers that we have that have been spellbound over a long period of time so that we could survive. So we have a real potentiality now to turn these patterns into power points by releasing these old shadow stories. And the more you get to know about emotional freedom technique, you will recognize that the problems seemingly are actually the solutions. You will see that once you understand how your emotional mind works, you can start to repattern and totally transform your experience every day so that anything that's coming in that's triggering you will lead you back to the source of when it was created for you, when there was a traumatic experience in some way, whether emotionally, physically, mentally, and how this will give you such a depth of understanding to your bigger picture and help you heal this and bring yourself back into balance. So Pisces, we are in this energy now. It's the 12th house. Where you have your 12th house is a very important place for you to go deeper into discovering your hidden power and healing your disempowerment. It's the crystal vision of the previous 11 months that we've gone through, and key to the shift that will be happening at the spring equinox time in March in Aries, when the solar wheel will begin again. So reflecting back at this time, detoxing at this time, this is an amazing purification gateway that we're in. I am restarting my new moon monthly workshops, and I'm going to be doing these in person and online. And the first one online is going to be at the time of the new moon in Pisces, which again is going to be at 12 degrees. It's on Wednesday, March the 2nd at 7 p.m. UK time, 11 a.m. Pacific time. And I will be advertising this on my website over the next few days. Please get in touch with me if you'd like to know more. You can access this on different levels. So you can come in for free just to join the circle of women. If you want to work specifically with your personal cosmic codes and how it's going to be affecting you, and how to work with an intention as well that is personally designed because of your cosmic codes, then there will be a charge for that. So I'm going to do it in a series of stages that you can access in the way that feels good for you. This will be a tapping circle, and that's what it's going to be focusing on. So that women come together, we will have shared themes, we will have shared expectations around our life journey and why we're here. And we will also have things to transform. The circles are about transformation. They are about working with our intuition at a dark moon time, because at the time of the new moon, it's actually on that day. It's always dark moon energy initially. So we can really get in touch with our higher self, and rather than what our conditioned mindsets wants for us. And that's really the focus now, is in order to make this shift, is to align with natural time, to get clear of the old programming, and the next 260-day cycle is going to be in Taurus, manifestation. So we're working very powerfully now on that energy of changing our mindsets, to change what we manifest, and to allow ourselves to surrender to divine will, to let that spirit energy, that wisdom come to us, because we are becoming clearer human beings. So lots of love to you today. And finally, I just want to mention that there is the Tapping Summit, and I'll put a link underneath. It's on the 28th of February, and I highly recommend that you check it out and take part. There's so many wonderful human beings on there sharing their wisdom with tapping frameworks, and you can borrow the benefits, which is an EFT term, so you can just tap along with everything, and whatever is necessary for you to let go of in doing that, without even thinking about that, just trusting the process, you will get a huge shift. So I just love sharing this stuff. I'm passionate about it, and I'm passionate about women living a magical life free from these very disempowering, limiting, and hurtful old programs. We're here to embody the goddess at this time and be our beautiful, amazing selves. Lots of love.